Well, guys, beautiful all day today. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. We are up here at the house site again today, trying to get a rough idea of where this house is going to sit. So we just have a few pins in place we got already. So just to see about where we're going to sit. So this is just really roughly the front corner of the house. And then we'll be 28 feet down the hill here for the walkout basement. 52 feet that way for the overall length of the house. And then we have a garage on this other side. So this will be for the overall excavation of the site for our walkout foundation. So we're just roughly getting our pins in place. We'll somewhat square it up, and we'll plan on doing about a 2-foot over dig. That way we have enough room for our footers and everything else we'll need to do behind the footers. All right, so we took a second just to lay out kind of our first corner there. So it's kind of arbitrary based on our original rough grade here. And then we went 52 feet, just kind of eyeballing parallel to our slope here. My dad's at that pin at 52 feet. So from those 2 points, we can just look at our foundation plan here. And we have our front corner here established. We have our second corner here established 52 feet away. And we're now trying to get this back corner here. So we're 52 feet by 28 feet deep, which means our diagonal using a right angle is 59.06 feet. 59 feet, 0.06 inches. So 0.06, when you multiply it by 12, gives you 3/4 of an inch. So we're going for 59 feet and 3/4 of an inch. And when we pull our ropes tight here, our tape measures tight, we get roughly 59 feet, 28 inches there, 28 feet and 59 3/4 of an inch. So we'll put a pin right here. Like I said, this is pretty rough still. It doesn't have to be perfect because we're going to do a 2-foot over dig. And then once we establish this point, we can do the same thing from that corner down to our lower corner here. And we'll do another diagonal and just see if everything lines up. Okay, so this is our last corner here. So just like the other side, we're going for 59 on the angle and then 28 on the yellow tape here. So as you move your tapes to match those points, that's how you get your corner squared up. So 28 feet and 59 3/4 of an inch is going to be right here at the intersection of these tapes. So we'll put another pin right here. This will be our front corner. So now that we have our initial point measured 52 feet over, we pulled a diagonal and then our 28-foot measurement down that way for that corner. Then we pulled a diagonal this way, 28 feet from down this way. We'll get our pin in here. So that establishes first corner, second corner, third corner, and this back corner right here. So we do have our rear of the house bump out and our front of the house bump out, but we'll kind of worry about those after we have the main pit dug here because those are a little bit more unique. So once we get these 4 corners dug out, then we can worry about where our bump out for the front porch is going, and the back porch will actually just be a at grade footer that we'll just have to dig with the small machine. So we'll get this laid out and we'll get some marks on the ground and we'll pretty much be ready to start digging some of this dirt out. Okay, we just got our marks laid out. We actually did our 2-foot over dig. We marked that. So our original pin for the corner of the house was in here. Measured out 2 feet. Unfortunately, we had to use red since there's all this snow on the ground. We can't really use white, and yeah, it's harder to see for me because I'm colorblind, but we'll make it work. So we have our 2-foot over dig marked out. So we'll go get the excavator and we'll get this part dug out and basically just have it be the same grade as what we have down there from our original rough grade. And then about 6 to 8 feet from the end down here, we still need our footers to be 3 feet below grade, so we'll end up having to do a stepped footing. But for now, we can get all this at the same grade. We probably have probably 200 tons of dirt or so to get out of here. So lots to move, and hopefully the big Cabelco makes short work of it. But let's go see if we can get that started. We'll get it up on the hill and get to work. Well, I haven't run this Cabelco since I fixed up the swing motor a couple months ago. So I want to do some due diligence here and just check some fluids, make sure we're still good. So if I remember where our swing motor fluid was, we were in here. And look, we still have fluid in there, so that's good. At least our seal worked out well. And then I'll just bring you over here. We'll check oil and whatever else we can for now. All these walnuts here parked under the walnut tree. So we have our oil. Let's do a quick check. A smidge low, but we'll be all right for now. Throw a quart in there when we're done. Everything else is looking good. Let's do a quick check on the coolant. There's no coolant in there, so I'm gonna throw some coolant in here just to make sure we're good there. And I'll check hydraulic fluid, but it should be all right too because we had plenty earlier. And I know we have a full tank of fuel, so a little bit of antifreeze should be all we need. Okay, well, it only took about a quarter of a gallon, so it wasn't too low at least. Unfortunately, I left my master shutoff on, and my batteries are dead. So let's get a jump pack on this or something, see if we can get it started. Okay, so this is a 24-volt system, and I have a 12-volt truck over here. So all I did was put the jumper cables on one battery, positive, negative. So it's really only going to be charging this one battery. Hopefully it'll start off this one battery. It's been charging pretty good and starting great before I let this die. So if not, we'll get both batteries charged up and we'll see if we can get this thing started. Well, I've let this charge for a few minutes now and I still have nothing on the dash inside. So even if the batteries are not strong enough to turn it over, it should still light up the dash and have a few indications on there that we're getting power. So I'm gonna grab a multimeter, see if we can figure out what's going on with this thing. So I have this multimeter here. Sorry about the engine running in the background, but I'm still trying to charge up here. Just make sure we're getting something from the truck. Getting 14 volts from the truck. We have 9 volts on this battery. Okay, so I'm just gonna disconnect these batteries in the back here. And my dad's gonna bring his truck around too. We're gonna charge both of them at the same time. See if we can get any juice out of them. If not, I'll probably just have to throw it on the trickle charger overnight or something. Okay, so these are isolated now. Should be able to just charge both of these at the same time, see if that does anything else. Okay, so my dad brought his truck up here, so now we have each battery charging independently. I think this one on the right is pretty much shot, so I took my chargers off of this one because it was at like 10 volts, and when I put the multimeter on here, I could just watch the millivolts just dropping and dropping and dropping. And this one's sitting at about 10.5 volts. This one drops down to 7 volts or so after a while. But have my dad's truck charging one, my truck charging the other. So if I can just get this thing started, I think we'll be all right just to get it up to the top of the hill. And then on Monday, probably end up just grabbing 2 new batteries for this thing. But it'd be nice to get it started and actually get some work done this weekend. All right, we have life. Boy, this thing had to have 2 chargers on the batteries for it to start up, but man, once this thing had a little bit of life to turn over, it just starts right up. So that's 4BT in this Cabelco. Great engine, love this thing. So I'm gonna let this warm up for a little bit. We'll track it up on top of the hill and see if we can get some digging done. 14 volts here, 14 volts here, so at least we're charging too, so maybe that'll help these batteries along. up with the bottom. So I just got the third side pretty much dug out. Got my dad in the excavator getting some seat time. He loves digging. So he's gonna work on getting basically everything inside here dug out. Hopefully, he's working on it. Still getting used to it. He's going slow, but he's new to the machine, so he's gotta get used to it. I'm gonna hop in the skid steer, start moving some of this excess dirt. If it actually, if I can get some traction out here, it's still pretty wet. So I'm gonna start piling up this dirt somewhere more useful, try and separate the good topsoil from the clay and the rock. I doubt we get all this dirt dug out of here today, but maybe tomorrow or the next day we should be able to have a decent hole dug. And then once we get most of the dirt out of here, we'll bring the transit in and we'll try to fine tune everything to level with the skid steer or the Mini over here. All right, well that pretty much wraps things up for today. Just got the machine shut off, tracks cleaned out, and did remember to turn the batteries off this time. So got a lot of dirt moved. My dad was working on this little piece here, so he moved a good bit. I was moving some of the spoils with the skid steer. Unfortunately, the ground is just soft enough that I can move around with the skid steer, but it doesn't really like to take a good scoop with the tired machine. So I hate to move this material twice, but it might be easier just to move it twice with the excavator because it's not really getting a good scoop with the skid steer. If this was like spring or summer when it was dried out, this would be perfect to have the skid steer running back and forth, or ideally dry enough to even get our 10-ton dump truck back there and just load the dump truck and haul that off. A lot quicker, but it is way too muddy for that, so have to just do what we can. And I think our best bet right now is just double moving with the excavator. But I think we're gonna call it a day for now, and we'll continue digging next time and hopefully get the transit out here, get some more grade and better grade whenever we start getting closer to the bottom of this hole. All right, catch up with you guys then. Well, it's a new day here and it's still cold, but we're expecting 3 to 12 inches of snow here in Pennsylvania this weekend, and we still have a lot of dirt to move, so let's get to it. Well, I should have done this initially because this thumb's kind of been getting in the way for most of the digging, but I'm going to try to move this thumb up. There was just a pin through here with a little keeper, and it just goes in, looks like one of these two holes, either higher up or lower down. I think it was in this lower down position initially. Actually, it was in the top position, so you can see where the plate was. And it looks like to get it locked into the full up position, I need to get this bar all the way up against the plate, and then these are like little spring-loaded, some kind of keepers maybe. So I want to see if I can get this thing pushed up all the way somehow. I already have the bucket kind of all the way out, so I might have to extend the arm and use the pressure to kind of push this up. So let's see what we can do with this. Okay, so now I can kind of see what's going on. Probably should have cleaned this dirt out a little bit more. It's frozen in there. But you can see there's a little lip right there that actually slides these little spring-loaded keepers in, and then it won't let it pass until you pull out if you want to put it back down there. So I have it to where one keeper's catching it. So I just need to clean a little bit of this dirt out and get it a little bit higher to catch this last pin. And then it looks like I can put my keeper pin back in here, and it'll sit right in that cylindrical groove. So let's try that. Okay, so this makes more sense now. Here's our two little pins. Past the first one, past the second one. So we should be locked in now. And then when I lift this back up, I'll just throw my keeper back in there. Well, I guess I should have put this in a little bit sooner because those spring-loaded keepers aren't very good at holding this on. This big pin, just go right in here and holds it up like that. And then our locking pin right there. And now we can get back to digging without having to worry about that thumb being in the way. Well guys, I goofed a little bit again. I think I can throw a track on pretty much any piece of equipment at this point, but I was able to crawl it out of that little area where we were, try to get it to a nicer spot down here. So just gonna grab the skid steer and we'll see if we can get this back on. So I really just had a little hard time trying to get that on. I thought I was on the drive gear in the back, and I was trying to get the idler on the front, but it turns out I was off my teeth on the back. So when I moved to the back here, I was just trying to get these tracks lined up with the teeth again. That way it'll be on the teeth whenever I pull it forward onto the idler gear up front. So now that these are lined up, I can move back to the front, and I'm going to try to get this track back up over top of this idler gear here, and we'll see if we can get this thing running and maybe throw some grease in there to tighten up this track a little bit. Well, I don't think I'm going to get this without taking all the grease out of the idler here, or the tension pulley. So let's go do that, try and fix this better. So looking at this, we have, probably hard to see, our little piston there, and this is our bolt that holds our grease, and there's a little Zerk fitting on there. So let's get that bolt taken out, see if we can put this in. 18 millimeter. Okay, grease bolt. Sit that over here. Definitely see all that grease coming out. So that's about all we're gonna get. So probably picked up about 3 or 4 inches there. So now let's see if we can get this track back on any easier. Oh boy. Oh, it's so close. Do I risk tracking a little bit to try to get the slip on there? Yes! Oh, success. Oh my. So we are essentially back on the idler up here. You see it goes in between these grooves a little bit up here, but I think once we put some tension on it, that'll go on no problem. So our bolt will go back in, put some more grease in, get these tightened up, and then back to digging. But yeah, that was a lesson, kind of learned the hard way. These bigger tracks are not very forgiving. So yeah, let's get this tensioned up and get back to work. We'll basically take this up until the track is roughly 1 inch from the bottom rollers there. There's probably a spec for this, but about 1 inch sounds pretty good to me. While this is down too, it's a good time to just check all these rollers to make sure they actually move. That's a good way to wear out tracks pretty fast if you get a stuck roller. Hey, that's looking pretty good. So it's another day here, pretty much dug until dark last night. And you can see we actually have our foundation mostly dug and no snow yet. The latest predictions are calling for snow starting tonight. So now getting 12 to 14 inches. So we brought the transit out today. My dad's coming over to help out with that. And we're gonna try to get this roughly at the grade we need it. So that's going to be, we're about 6 feet below our walkout top right now. And I'd like to be around 9 feet because our basement walls are going to be 9 feet. I'd like to be sticking out of the ground about a foot when we get out here to the top. And we're going to have a 10-inch footer. So the 10-inch footer with a 9-foot wall, if we go 9 feet down from here, we should be pretty much sitting about a foot out of the ground there. And then we'll have the 16-inch floor trusses on top of that to get us up to our final grade. So I think my dad just pulled in. We're going to get the transit out and let's get to digging. So we tried to start the excavator so it could warm up while we discussed grade and everything, and it wouldn't start. So this cold temperature finally did in those bad batteries, and unfortunately we had to go get 2 new ones. So we're now at midday and we're hopefully going to be getting started soon. But my dad and I just discussed grade, so we have our transit set up here at the top. We zeroed a point on this side of the foundation because we're slightly downhill going that way. And we're gonna do a 9-foot deep dig here. So we're trying to balance not sticking too high out of the ground at this side for where the garage will go, but also not having to dig out a ton of dirt and rock where we're gonna be sloping away from the house outside the foundation. So balancing those two, we're gonna dig down 9 feet, and that will basically allow the foundation on this side to be sitting up out of the dirt about 10 to 12 inches. And by the time we get down to that side, it'll be about 24 inches. And then we'll probably end up having to dig out maybe a foot or so in the backyard there just to get some slope away from the house. That gives us the best balance of removing dirt and then adding some more up here where we need to get the garage sitting nice and landscaping looking good. So right now we're about 1 to 2 feet high. So we need to dig down 1 to 2 feet for pretty much all of the foundation. So as soon as the Cabelco warms up, my dad's gonna be on the transit, and that's basically what we're gonna try to get done today. Okay, so like I said, the idea here is we're gonna dig down 9 feet from the top of our wall there, and with our 10-inch footer and then our 9-foot foundation, we should be sticking out of the ground about a foot at the highest point. And we were about a foot high over here on this side. So I'm gonna try to get about another foot down, and we'll just work our way all the way across the foundation here. Trying to be gentle now and not take too much because I don't want to dig down further than I have to. So I'm going to just take a couple small bites here and then let my dad do a quick measurement. See where we're at. Oop, just turning the alarm on so you can hear it. Down a good bit. So we'll just take out a little bit more, little at a time, until we get to where we are and I can kind of visualize how much dirt's coming out of here. So I'm just going to dig at this depth here, try to maintain that the whole way across, and try to use the bottom of the bucket the best I can to smooth rather than digging the teeth in. Alright, so it's really starting to take shape now. I mean, it's a lot easier to see the grade. My dad's warming up, but once I get an established grade, I can kind of just use the bottom of the bucket to smooth everything out. And just use one tooth as a guide, trying to leave the one tooth on what I know is already good while I scoop out all the excess. So I know we're good down here. Stick my left tooth right on that spot we already graded and just kind of scoop up as much as I can, smooth out the bottom with the bucket. Rinse and repeat. So we're about a third of the way through, I'd say. Definitely was not as close as I thought I was, just digging out the rough parts, but the big machine here is making short work of the last 2 feet we have to go, so not much more. So the excavator did a really good job of getting this pretty much right at the grade we need. Pretty much ended up taking out probably another 150 tons of dirt, so I was a little bit more off than I expected, but it does help a lot that I'm now below that little rock seam that I was fighting against. So this is actually a lot better clay and dirt mixed So I'm just gonna get in the skid steer now and kind of tidy this all up and get all the loose dirt and loose rocks out of here from the teeth on the excavator. Looks like I might have to still dig along this wall a little bit. I didn't chisel out enough. And my dad's just going to be on the transit trying to fine tune our grade here. So, and then of course, I think next weekend we're going to spend most of our days just moving dirt, because we have a lot more dirt here than I expected, and it's kind of just getting in the way now. So let's get the skid steer warmed up and see if we can clean this up a little bit more. Okay guys, so we're pretty much wrapping it up for the day, just calling it quits for now. We've got about two paths here with the skid steer, and the fuel system wasn't working out. I think my fuel's gelling up because it's so cold, and there was some frozen water in the bottom of the water separator. So just not working out today. It's been quite a fight between getting the excavator started after the batteries died, and then trying to get the skid steer started, and then having the fuel system not working properly. So gotta know when to call it, and we're just basically gonna try to finish this maybe when it's warmer, or if we get another break, we can probably use the Mini or something to get this graded out. But we're pretty much at grade back in this left corner, but I can see we have a decent hump here in the middle, and then about another foot needs to come out on that corner. So that'll be a job for next time. And for now, since we're gonna get all this snow over the next week or so, I bought a tarp just to put over this to keep the ground somewhat clear. That way, if we end up having some time to work on it, we'll just be able to pull the tarp off. So gonna get this tarp put across our ground here, and then that'll be it for today. See you guys next time. All right guys, so we're back a couple weeks later, and of course we did get that 10 inches from that snowstorm we were expecting, but also worse than that, it was probably 0 to 15 degrees for the last 3 weeks. But today it's finally sunny, 50 degrees. Our snow's finally melting. Our hole stayed relatively dry with that tarp down, so that helped. And now my dad's coming over. We're gonna get this last couple inches graded off down in our hole. And I have the transit set up over there, just getting re-zeroed over here where we were originally zeroing. So you can see we are at 1 foot 6 3/4. So I will add 9 to that to get our depth that we were going for down there. So that should be 10 foot 6 3/4. And then we'll start shooting our grades. We're down on our foundation now. Like I said, we're just gonna set this story pole to 10 foot 6 3/4, because that's 9 feet more on the stick than what I measured up there. And should be pretty close at some of these points. So like this corner here is pretty much right on where we need to be. And that's hopefully what I was expecting, because that's where we left off last time. So it doesn't have to be perfectly 9 feet. We're probably going for within an inch or so on this foundation. And I can just make up the difference in the actual footer when we level off the footer. So my dad and I did a pretty good job finalizing the grade on this with the Mini. You can see we pretty much worked our way from the front of the house about to where the dirt pile starts. So I had the Mini in here. It did a really good job of getting everything to the final grade within about an inch or two. But unfortunately now I have about another 40 tons of dirt to move. So my next step is to take the big Belco, and we're gonna take this 40 tons of dirt and add it to our bigger pile of dirt back here. So the lesson for this whole job has been dirt management at this point. So I've moved the same dirt 2 to 3 times at this point. Like I said before, it'd be easier if we had a dump truck kind of sitting on site and we could load it, move it as I was digging initially, but just too muddy here to do that. So fortunately, my brother-in-law is going to be bringing his 955 cat loader over here to help move this dirt. So once he gets here, hopefully we'll be able to start getting this dirt out of the way of the house site and try to pile it up somewhere more convenient. Well, this is it, our giant hole in the ground, approximately 52 feet wide, 30 feet deep. This will be the main part of our foundation. Of course, I still have this giant pile of dirt behind me, which we'll need to move so we can build a road to get concrete trucks up here when we pour the footer. Speaking of footers, we're going to have a drop footer 3 feet below grade along the back side of the house, so this wall and probably about 8 feet or so up each wing to account for the slope, so that way it always bears 3 feet below the frost line. So in our next video, we'll be installing the footers, and we'll have to more accurately measure exactly where those will go, dig our drop footer, and then we'll be able to put our forms in. Until then, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next one.